Welcome to English Prime Podcast. Let's get started.
Hey, English learners. Welcome back to English Prime Podcast. Here, we learn real English through simple conversations, daily life stories, and powerful communication tips. So relax, enjoy, and let's improve your English together. I'm Emma.
And I'm Jake. Here, we help you build your confidence by listening to natural conversations about real-life situations. Because sometimes the best way to improve your English is not only studying words, but also hearing how people actually communicate.
Exactly. And today, we are talking about something that looks very simple, but many people find it difficult. A question that almost everyone hears at some point. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting because when someone asks this question, many people suddenly feel nervous. They know many things about themselves, but when they have to explain those things in English, their mind goes blank.
That's so true. You can know your name, your hobbies, your work, your goals, and your experiences. But when someone says, "Okay, tell me about yourself," you start thinking, where should I start?
And I think that's the reason this question is so important. It's not only about English, it's also about communication. Knowing how to introduce yourself helps you in interviews, new friendships, meetings, and many everyday situations.
Yes, and that's something we often forget. Introducing yourself is not about giving a perfect speech or trying to impress everyone. It's simply about helping people understand who you are.
Exactly. A good introduction is not about using difficult words. It's about being clear, comfortable, and natural. When you can talk about yourself easily, you feel more confident in many other conversations too.
And for everyone learning English, daily conversations like this are a really powerful way to improve. When you listen to real discussions, you learn how people share ideas, ask questions, and respond naturally.
Right. While listening today, pay attention to the small phrases and speaking patterns we use. These are the kinds of expressions that can help you sound more natural when you speak English.
Because language is not only about remembering words, it's about understanding how people use those words in real life. And the more you listen, the easier it becomes to express your own thoughts.
And maybe the biggest challenge with "tell me about yourself" is that people often think they need to say something amazing. They feel like their answer has to be perfect.
But actually, a simple and honest answer can be much better. Think about when you meet someone new. You don't need to tell them your whole life story. You just share a few things that help them get to know you.
That's a great point. Imagine meeting someone for the first time. You might tell them your name, where you are from, what you do, and maybe something you enjoy. That small conversation is already an introduction.
Yes, and sometimes those simple conversations create the strongest connections. The goal is not to sound like a textbook. The goal is to sound like yourself.
So today, we'll talk about how to introduce yourself in a natural way, why people feel nervous about it, and how you can become more comfortable speaking about who you are.
And if you enjoy these kinds of simple conversations that help you improve your English naturally, don't forget to like the video and support English Prime Podcast.
Your support helps us create more useful conversations like this. Now, let's talk about why such a simple question can sometimes feel so difficult.
Yeah, and I think the first reason is that people put too much pressure on themselves. They hear, "tell me about yourself," and they immediately think, "I need to give the best answer possible."
Exactly. Instead of seeing it as a normal conversation, they start treating it like a test. They worry about every word, every sentence, and every small mistake they might make.
And that pressure can make even simple things feel hard. Someone may know exactly what they want to say in their own language, but when they try to say it in English, they suddenly become unsure.
That happens to many learners. They are not struggling because they have nothing to share. They are struggling because they are trying to translate every single thought perfectly before speaking.
Right. And that's where many people lose confidence. They forget that communication is about sharing an idea, not creating a perfect sentence every time.
I also think another reason is that people don't know where to start. They think, should I talk about my family, my education, my job, my hobbies? And because they are thinking about too many options, they get stuck.
That's a really common problem. Sometimes having too many choices makes speaking harder. A simple structure can make things much easier because you know what information is important.
Yes, and the interesting thing is, a good introduction doesn't need to be very long. In most situations, people just want to understand who you are and what your connection is with them.
For example, if you meet someone new, you don't need to explain your entire history. You can simply say your name, where you're from, what you do, and maybe one thing you enjoy.
Exactly. And that small introduction can open the door to a much bigger conversation. The goal is not to finish everything about yourself in one answer. The goal is to start a connection.
I like that idea because many learners forget that conversations are a two-way street. You don't have to do all the talking. After you share something, the other person can ask questions too.
Yes, and that actually makes it easier. Instead of thinking, I have to give a perfect introduction, think, I'm just starting a friendly conversation.
And another thing that makes introductions difficult is trying to sound too advanced. Some people believe simple English is not impressive enough.
But in reality, simple and clear English often sounds more confident. When your message is easy to understand, people focus on you instead of your mistakes.
That's such an important point. Confidence doesn't come from using complicated words. It comes from knowing what you want to say and feeling comfortable saying it.
Exactly. And once people understand this, they can start building a more natural way of introducing themselves, which is what we'll explore next.
Yes, because a good self-introduction is not about saying every single detail about your life. It's about sharing the right information in a simple and natural way.
That's true. A lot of people think they need a long answer, but most of the time, people just want to understand the basics about you. They want to know who you are and what kind of person you are.
Exactly. Usually, a good introduction starts with simple things like your name, where you're from, and what you do. These details give people a clear idea about you.
Right. For example, you might say, my name is Daniel. I'm from Australia, and I work in marketing. It's simple, but it already starts a conversation.
And after that, you can talk about your current life. Maybe you're studying, working, learning something new, or focusing on a personal goal. These things help people understand what is happening in your life right now.
Yes. And I think another important thing is knowing the situation. The way you introduce yourself in a job interview can be different from the way you introduce yourself when meeting a new friend.
That's a really good point. In an interview, you may talk more about your skills and experience, but in a casual conversation, you might talk more about your interests and personality.
Exactly. A good introduction changes depending on the person you are talking to. It should match the moment, not feel like a prepared speech that you repeat everywhere.
And I think adding a small personal detail can make a big difference. Something simple that shows who you are beyond your name and job.
Yes, like saying, in my free time, I enjoy playing football, or I like reading books. These small details make you more memorable because people can connect with your interests.
Right. Sometimes people only share facts, but they forget that conversations are about people. A little bit of personality makes the conversation warmer.
And this is where many learners struggle. They try to create one perfect introduction and memorize every sentence.
Yeah, and memorizing can make things difficult because real conversations don't always follow the same pattern. Someone might ask a question you didn't expect.
Exactly. You might introduce yourself, and then the other person says, "That's interesting. Why did you choose that career?" Or, "How did you become interested in that?"
And that's actually a good thing because it means the conversation is moving naturally. You don't have to control every part of it. You just need to be ready to share your thoughts.
I agree. A strong introduction is not about sounding perfect. It's about making it easy for someone to know you and continue the conversation.
Yes, and when you focus on connection instead of perfection, speaking becomes much easier. But there are also some common mistakes people make when introducing themselves, and those can make the conversation less natural.
That's true. Sometimes people have good ideas to share, but the way they organize their introduction makes it harder for others to follow.
Exactly. And one of the biggest mistakes is giving too much information. Some people think they need to explain their whole life story when someone asks, "Tell me about yourself."
Yeah, and that can make the conversation feel a little overwhelming. Imagine meeting someone for the first time and they start talking about every detail from childhood until now. It becomes difficult to know what to focus on.
Right.
A better approach is to choose the most useful information. You don't need to tell everything, you just need to share enough so the other person understands you.
Another common mistake is trying to sound too formal or too advanced. Some learners use words they don't normally use because they want to impress people.
Yes, and sometimes that actually creates the opposite effect. When you use simple words that you are comfortable with, you usually sound more confident.
Exactly. Good communication is not about showing how many difficult words you know. It's about making your message clear.
I also think another mistake is memorizing an answer word by word. Preparation is helpful, but if you memorize every single sentence, you might panic when the conversation changes.
That happens a lot. Someone remembers their first few lines, but then the other person asks a different question, and suddenly they don't know how to continue.
And real conversations are always changing. You might start by introducing yourself, but then the other person shares something about themselves too. It becomes a natural exchange.
Yes, and that's why practicing ideas is better than memorizing sentences. Know the points you want to talk about, but allow yourself to speak naturally.
Another thing people do is only talk about achievements. They list their education, job, skills, and everything they have done, but they forget to show their personality.
That's a great point. Achievements are important, especially in professional situations, but people also want to know the person behind those achievements.
Exactly. Saying something small like what you enjoy, what motivates you, or what you're interested in can make your introduction feel more human.
And I think the biggest mistake is thinking that every small mistake will ruin the conversation. Many learners become so focused on avoiding mistakes that they forget to communicate.
Yes, and mistakes are a normal part of learning. The important thing is to keep going and not let one small error stop you from expressing yourself.
Because at the end of the day, people remember your confidence and your message more than one imperfect sentence.
That's such an important lesson. When you stop trying to be perfect and start focusing on being clear, your introductions become much easier and more natural. And that also helps you build confidence in many other conversations.
Exactly, because confidence is not something that suddenly appears one day. It usually grows slowly through practice and experience.
Yes, and I think many people misunderstand confidence. They think confident speakers never feel nervous, but that's not really true.
Right. Even good speakers can feel nervous sometimes. The difference is that they don't let that nervous feeling stop them from speaking.
That's a great point. Confidence is not about having zero fear. It's about being able to continue even when you feel a little uncomfortable.
Exactly. And when it comes to introducing yourself, one of the best ways to build confidence is to practice simple conversations again and again.
Yes, you can practice with common questions like, where are you from? What do you do? Or what are your interests? These questions appear in everyday life all the time.
And the more familiar those questions become, the easier your answers will feel. You won't have to spend so much time thinking because your brain already knows how to respond.
I also think people should stop comparing themselves with fluent speakers. Sometimes learners hear someone speaking easily and think, I will never speak like that.
Yeah, but they don't see the years of practice behind that person. Every confident speaker started by making simple sentences and learning step by step.
Exactly. Everyone has a starting point. The goal is not to become perfect overnight. The goal is to become a little better every day.
And another thing that helps is accepting your own speaking style. You don't have to copy someone else's personality when you speak English.
I like that, because sometimes learners think they need to sound like a different person, but your English should still feel like you.
Yes, if you are naturally calm, be calm. If you are friendly and energetic, let that show. Your personality is part of your communication.
And I think small wins matter too. Maybe today you introduce yourself without stopping. Tomorrow you answer a question more easily. These small improvements build confidence over time.
That's true. Confidence comes from collecting those small moments where you realize, I can actually do this.
And once you feel comfortable talking about yourself, it becomes easier to join bigger conversations, meet new people, and express your ideas.
Exactly. A simple introduction might seem like a small skill, but it's actually the beginning of many important conversations.
And speaking of real conversations, there are many different situations where we introduce ourselves. So next, we'll look at how this changes depending on the situation.
Yes, because the way you introduce yourself is not always the same. A good introduction depends on where you are and who you are talking to.
Exactly. For example, introducing yourself in a job interview is different from introducing yourself to a new friend. The purpose of the conversation changes, so your answer should change too.
Right. In a job interview, people usually want to know about your experience, your skills, and what you can bring to the company. So your introduction should focus more on your professional side.
But when you meet someone casually, you don't need to sound like you are giving an interview answer. You can be more relaxed and talk about your interests, hobbies, and daily life.
Yeah, imagine you are meeting a new classmate or someone at an event. You might say your name, where you're from, what you study or do, and then ask them about themselves too.
That's an important part. A conversation is not only about talking about yourself. A good introduction also creates a chance to learn about the other person.
Exactly. Sometimes people forget that because they are focused on giving the perfect answer. But the best conversations happen when both people share and listen.
And there are also online situations now. Maybe you join a virtual meeting or an online community. Even there, a simple introduction can help people feel comfortable with you.
That's true. You don't need to make it complicated. A few clear sentences can be enough to start building a connection.
I think the biggest thing to remember is that every situation has a different goal. You are not changing who you are. You are just choosing the parts of yourself that fit the moment.
Exactly. It's like having different conversations with different people. You are still the same person, but you highlight different things about yourself.
And this is a useful skill beyond English learning, too. Knowing how to introduce yourself helps you feel more comfortable in new places and new situations.
Yes, because every new conversation is an opportunity. A simple introduction can lead to a new friendship, a new opportunity, or even a new experience.
And before we continue, I think it's also helpful to hear a simple real-life story about someone who struggled with introductions and learned how to handle them better.
Yeah, I think a lot of our listeners will be able to relate to this story.
A few years ago, I heard about a young man who was starting his first job. He was excited about the opportunity, but he was also very nervous because it was his first day in a completely new environment.
I can already imagine how he felt. Starting a new job can be stressful enough, and then you have to meet a lot of new people at the same time.
Exactly. Before his first day, he spent a lot of time preparing an introduction. He wrote down a long answer and tried to memorize every sentence.
That sounds like something many English learners do. They think the more information they prepare, the safer they will feel.
Right. But when he arrived at the office, something unexpected happened. During a team meeting, everyone was asked to introduce themselves one by one.
And suddenly, all that preparation probably disappeared.
Pretty much. As he waited for his turn, he became more and more nervous. He was thinking about his grammar, his pronunciation, and whether people would like his introduction.
So instead of focusing on the conversation, he was focusing on everything that could go wrong.
Exactly. Then his turn came. He started speaking, forgot part of what he had memorized, became even more nervous, and ended up giving a very awkward introduction.
That must have felt disappointing after spending so much time preparing.
It did. But later that day, one of his coworkers spoke with him and gave him a simple piece of advice. The coworker said, "You don't need to impress people. Just help them get to know you."
Wow, that's actually a very powerful lesson.
It really is. The next time he had to introduce himself, he kept things simple. He shared his name, what he did, and a little about his interests. That was it.
And I'm guessing it went much better.
Much better. He felt more relaxed. People responded naturally, and the conversation flowed easily. He realized that people were not looking for a perfect speech. They were simply looking for a real person.
I love that lesson because it applies to so many situations. Whether you're speaking English, starting a new job, or meeting someone for the first time, people usually care more about connection than perfection.
Exactly. And sometimes the simplest introductions are the most effective because they feel honest and natural.
And that brings us to an important question. If keeping things simple works so well, what practical things can people do to improve their introductions and become more comfortable speaking about themselves?
I think the first thing is to practice with real situations instead of only memorizing answers. When you practice, imagine you are actually meeting someone and having a conversation.
That's a great idea, because sometimes people practice alone, but they only repeat the same sentence again and again. Then when a real conversation happens, they don't know how to continue.
Exactly. A better way is to practice different versions of your introduction, maybe a short one for a quick meeting and a longer one for a situation where someone wants to know more about you.
Yes, and another important thing is to understand your own story. Before you can talk about yourself comfortably, you need to know what parts of your life you want to share.
That's true. Think about your experiences, your interests, your goals, and the things that describe you. When you understand those things, speaking becomes much easier.
I also think people should practice speaking out loud. Many learners know what they want to say in their mind, but they don't practice actually saying it.
Yes, and speaking out loud helps you notice where you pause, where you feel uncomfortable, and which parts you need to practice more.
Another small but powerful habit is recording yourself. It might feel strange at first, but listening back can help you understand your speaking style.
That's a good point. You can notice things like speaking too fast, repeating the same words, or not giving yourself enough time to think.
And I think one of the biggest mindset changes is understanding that mistakes are not a disaster. If you make a small mistake while introducing yourself, the conversation can still continue.
Exactly. Most people are not listening to find your mistakes. They are listening because they want to know you.
That's such an important difference. When you stop thinking, how can I avoid every mistake, and start thinking, how can I share my message, speaking becomes less stressful.
And there is also one simple thing people can do every day: have small conversations. Even a short chat with someone can help you become more comfortable.
Yes, because confidence grows through action. The more you use English in real situations, the more natural it starts to feel.
And now we want to hear from you. When someone asks you, "Tell me about yourself," what is the hardest part for you?
Do you struggle with starting your answer, choosing the right words, or feeling confident while speaking? Share your experience in the comments, because your answer might help another learner too.
And you can also practice right now by writing a short introduction about yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just start with simple sentences and build from there.
Exactly. Every small practice session helps you improve. A few minutes of speaking today can make tomorrow's conversations much easier.
And now, let's quickly look at some useful English from our conversation. These are simple phrases you can use when you talk about yourself in real life.
Yes, and the best thing about these expressions is that they don't only work for introductions. You can use them in many everyday conversations when you are meeting new people or sharing information about yourself.
The first phrase is, "Let me introduce myself." This is a natural way to start talking about who you are. It simply means you are going to share some basic information about yourself.
Right. For example, if you join a new group or attend a meeting, you can say, "Let me introduce myself. My name is Alex, and I'm happy to be here." It sounds polite and friendly.
Another useful expression is, "I'm originally from." This phrase is helpful when you want to talk about your hometown or the place where you grew up.
Yes, and it's a very common phrase in conversations. Instead of saying a longer sentence, you can simply say, "I'm originally from Brazil, but I live in Germany now."
That's a good example because it also shows that you can add more information naturally. You can start with one simple detail and continue the conversation from there.
Exactly. Another phrase we talked about is "I currently." This one is useful when you want to talk about your present situation, like your job, studies, or something you are doing now.
For example, "I currently work as a teacher," or "I currently study computer science." It helps people understand what your life looks like at the moment.
And I like this phrase because it keeps your introduction focused on the present. Sometimes people spend too much time talking about the past and forget to mention what they are doing now.
Yes, that's true. Another simple but powerful expression is "in my free time." We use this when we want to talk about our hobbies or activities outside of work and study.
Right. You can say, "In my free time, I enjoy playing basketball." Or, "In my free time, I like watching movies." It's a great way to show your personality.
And speaking about personality, another useful phrase is, "One thing about me is." This helps you share something interesting or unique about yourself.
Yes, it's a nice way to move beyond basic information. For example, one thing about me is that I love learning new languages. It gives people a chance to know you better.
I also want to talk about the expression get to know someone. This means learning about a person and understanding them better.
Exactly. When you meet someone new, the goal is not only to introduce yourself, but also to get to know them. A good conversation always works both ways.
Another natural phrase is I'm interested in. This is useful when you want to talk about topics, activities, or things you enjoy.
For example, I'm interested in technology, or I'm interested in improving my communication skills. It's a simple way to continue a conversation.
And one more expression from today's discussion is figure things out. This means trying to understand or solve something step by step.
Yes, and it's very common in daily English. For example, I'm still trying to figure things out means you are still learning or finding the best way to handle something.
I think these phrases are helpful because they give you a starting point. Sometimes people know what they want to say, but they don't know how to begin.
Exactly. Having a few natural expressions ready can make speaking easier. But remember, the goal is not to memorize every sentence. The goal is to use these phrases in your own way.
Right. When you practice them in real conversations, they slowly become a natural part of your speaking.
And now it's time to use what you learned. Let's move into speaking practice and try answering some questions about yourself.
Yes, this is the part where you can practice and actually use the ideas we talked about. Don't worry about making perfect sentences. Just focus on expressing your thoughts clearly.
Exactly. So imagine someone asks you, "Can you tell me about yourself?" Take a moment and try to answer that question in English.
You can start with something simple, like, my name is Anna, I'm from Italy, and I currently study business. In my free time, I enjoy painting and reading books.
That's a great example because it gives basic information but still feels natural. You don't need to add every detail. Just share enough to help someone understand you.
Now, here's another question for you. What is one interesting thing about you?
This is a good question because it helps you talk about your personality. You could answer something like, "One thing about me is that I love learning new skills and trying new things."
Exactly. And remember, your answer doesn't have to sound impressive. It just needs to be honest and something that represents you.
Here's another one. What do you enjoy doing in your free time?
You can answer with simple sentences like, in my free time, I enjoy playing sports, or I like watching movies and spending time with my family.
Now pause the video and try answering these questions yourself. Take a few seconds, speak out loud, and practice your own introduction.
And if your first answer doesn't feel perfect, that's completely normal. Every time you practice, you become more comfortable and more confident.
Yes, because speaking skills grow through small steps. A short practice today can make a big difference in your future conversations.
And we hope this conversation helped you see that introducing yourself is not about being perfect. It's about sharing who you are in a simple and natural way.
If you want to improve your English through real conversations, make sure you subscribe to English Prime Podcast and continue learning with us.
We create these conversations to help you build confidence, learn useful expressions, and improve your speaking step by step.
So keep practicing, keep using English, and don't be afraid to make mistakes while learning.
And before we end today's conversation, let's do a quick recap of what we talked about.
Yes. Today we discussed how to answer the question, "Tell me about yourself," and why this simple question can sometimes feel difficult.
We learned that a good introduction is not about giving a perfect speech or using difficult words. It's about sharing simple information clearly and naturally.
Exactly. We talked about starting with basic details like your name, where you're from, what you do, and adding small personal details to show your personality.
We also discussed some common mistakes, like giving too much information, memorizing every sentence, or trying too hard to sound advanced.
And remember some useful phrases from today's conversation, like, "Let me introduce myself. I'm originally from," "I currently," "in my free time," and "one thing about me is."
The biggest lesson is that confidence comes with practice. You don't need perfect English to start a conversation. You just need to keep trying.
Exactly. Every small step helps you become a better speaker, and every time you introduce yourself, you get another chance to improve.
Yes, and remember, improving your English is a journey. You don't need to become perfect in one day. Every conversation, every practice, and every small effort helps you grow.
That's right. A simple introduction may seem like a small thing, but it can open the door to new friendships, new opportunities, and better communication.
And we hope today's conversation gave you more confidence to talk about yourself in English. The next time someone asks, "Tell me about yourself," don't feel nervous. Just start with simple words and let the conversation flow.
Exactly. Keep practicing the phrases we learned today. Use them in your own conversations, and remember that your voice matters.
Thank you for spending this time with us on English Prime Podcast. We really hope you enjoyed this conversation and learned something useful.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who is also learning English.
Your support helps us create more simple and helpful conversations for English learners around the world.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep improving step by step.
We'll see you in the next conversation. Take care and have a wonderful day.
Bye, everyone. See you next time.